Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar&Brawl. Hope you're having a decent day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam, and we're back with another episode of The Progressive World. So it's a relatively packed one. Here's a quick rundown. So we're going to start with our country report, country briefs again. So we have some news on Iran and their nuclear negotiations, a few items out of Afghanistan, including the Taliban taking over the final province that was resisting, Panjshir. Then we have few updates from Venezuela. The opposition has finally decided to stop boycotting the elections. So just going to discuss that quickly. Then we're going to move on to Progressive World Online. And here we're going to talk about the abortion in the US and Katie Halper, abortion in Texas, sorry. And Katie Halper had a few great guests on her podcast. And then we're going to talk about the little beef between Glenn Greenwald and Chelsea Manning. Go through that, have some fun with that. And then in our progressive research review part, I'm gonna present this new report that has come out about natural disasters in the past 50 years and what have been some of the trends. And finally, in our last item for today, it's called Points of Contention. So a few arguments that I've had with Sam, but actually one of them that we had last year led to me realizing how much more of a carbon footprint or a greenhouse gas emissions pets produce. So we're just going to talk about that and a few other climate change and population control control topics. But yeah, Sam, if you don't have much to add to the rundown overview, maybe you can start us with Iran.
No, nothing to add there. Thanks for that. Yeah, I can start with Iran brief. So in terms of Iranian politics, in terms of foreign policy, Iranian president gave his first major televised interview, and in that he said that the nuclear negotiations will resume with the aim of removal of sanctions. However, we will not tolerate an atmosphere of pressure. So again, it's just like all the signals before the election and after the election, especially with his speech to the parliamentarians. He's making it clear that there is going to be a certain level of consistency in terms of foreign policy, which is natural because Iran, you have the supreme leader, the Guardian Council, all these other institutions, just like most countries. So I think maybe the rhetoric gonna ramp up slightly, but it's not. But I doubt he's gonna pursue a completely different policies. Negotiation team, I doubt it. They're going to follow a different policy. And you had the update that, for example, interestingly, Vladimir Putin came out and defended Iranian rights and said that US is not willing to give any points to Iranian negotiations, which was quite interesting. So I think it's like Iran is out of necessity, out of not having options, basically has to take a stand at this point. So that's going on in terms of foreign policy. Internally, interestingly, there are clear ramping up of the fight in terms of corruption. One of the major petrochemical fraud cases, financial fraud cases, was settled recently with CEOs and people in the company. Two people being basically sentenced to 20 years prison sentences. One of them, I believe, is a daughter of a major political figure in Iran, former major figure. He's been obviously sidelined now. So the judiciary seems to be ramping up the war with the corruption, or at least that's what it seems. So in terms of internal politics, that was the latest update about Iran. Nothing else on Iran. I can move on to Afghanistan or...
Yeah, for sure. So foreign policy...
Any questions?
No. So foreign policy, are they back in Vienna negotiating with the US, or not even really when it comes to the nuclear deal? But the Iranians have just indicated that, they're willing to kind of pick up where they had left off.
More than indicates. More than indicate.
Yeah.
There
Explicitly
is going to be a resumption of talks, I think. Yeah.
And nothing about the Israelis, because they're kind of ramping up their attacks towards Iran, but nothing been said in the Iranian press or too much about that. Well, not that they're ramping up, but the rhetoric is there. And
I don't, yeah, Iranian press is always talking about Israel, to be fair. It's kind of like US and like, I don't know, US and China maybe, or the Soviet Union at its height.
yeah.
Yeah, but so no, I'm sure they're lobbying, and Saudis are lobbying, and everybody's lobbying. But for now, yeah, we'll see.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, so move on to Afghanistan, please.
All right. So in Afghanistan, there was quite a lot of news, but just the headline is basically that Taliban took over all of Afghanistan. They announced today that Panjshir is in their control, and they are gonna because they had cut off electricity, internet, and I believe other utilities to the region. Those gonna be by today's afternoon. So it's gonna be these services are gonna continue to be available to people. They say they cannot find the Northern Alliance, the resistance fighters leaders, and they have fled to Tajikistan. But there is no confirmation about that. Although the spokesperson for the resistance, or the Northern whatever alliance you want to call them, the spokesperson apparently did on a tweet or something say that Afghanistan was murdered or killed, which basically I think is kind of they're admitting defeat. Although Shah Massoud's son Ahmad Massoud, he did tweet that he's safe and sound. So it's a bit confusing as of yet, but it's clear that Taliban has completely taken control. That was the biggest development out there. You also had women protest all across Afghanistan, in Kabul, in Mazar Sharif. Some of them got violent to an extent. Some of them were peaceful. Taliban came out and started talking, their spokespersons, that women are a big part of the society. We hope we believe they play an important role in Islamic society, but also it's important to point out that they did also announce that music is illegal in Islam, and we hope to convince people. We don't hope to enforce some. So I mean, we'll see when when they fully are in charge, how they react. And they announced that tomorrow their leader, who has not been seen in public, will be seen in public for the first time. So that's a great,
And he's in Afghanistan.
Step
He's
towards
in Afghanistan, their leader.
Yes, yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not even sure they had a leader until they took over Kabul. But yes, now he's anyway. But yeah. So and interestingly, it came out that apparently Ashraf Ghani, when he fled, he and his team had taken $163 million. According to one of the ambassadors of his own government, they have taken over $150 million as they fled the country, which is just great. And yeah, so that these are, but the developments in, let me just add a tiny annex. The takeover of Panjshir was quite interesting because it kind of demonstrated the just level of incompetency on both sides. You had Taliban moving in quite fast, even though Panjshir is in a very geopolitically favorable position. The resistance
geographically,
geographically, geographically it's very geopolitic, like it's highlands and then valleys and all that. I don't know how they really they didn't put up much of a fight. At the same time, you had really crazy going on. Like there was an explosion of a mountain behind Taliban forces, which led to Taliban retreating and leaving some of the US equipments to be seized by resistance fighters. And that just happened like a day or 2 days before this takeover. So it was just both sides. It seems like, yeah. I mean, I just hope there's some level of stability in this country, but I don't know what the hell is going on, really. I don't know what. And there wasn't like I kept reading these articles to find out the reason for the explosion of a mountain, but like, yeah,
Wow.
doesn't seem
Yeah.
to have been part of the tactic. I don't know, but anyways, so yeah, it was, but it's done now, it seems.
I see. And yeah, and with the whole leadership and all that coming out in with Taliban saying, they're gonna encourage people not to listen to music and all this. As you pointed out, it's really hard to tell right now if they have any control over other Taliban members and leaders in different provinces across the country. So who's gonna do what, even if someone's saying it, is unclear, right?
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, the fact that international organizations are cutting off money and US is basically blocking Afghan funds, Afghani government funds from Taliban, that's gonna be, I mean, I don't think, I mean, those things are gonna all play like they're gonna play, how do they say it? They, if they want to promote human rights and women rights and stuff, I think those things gonna be counter acting those aims, be acting against those aims, I
Yeah.
think. But they think they gain leverage maybe through that, through blocking their money, but I don't, who knows.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And then this wasn't part of your notes and stuff, but I'm sure you heard or you saw the highlights, how Biden, when he gave his last speech on Afghanistan, he said that the US is going to stop nation building. I just found that to be funny, and it was
Did
reported
he?
everywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
The
I know. I didn't
headlines
see. I did
everywhere.
see that interview that he did clearly say that. I mean, that was Obama's kind of a strategy, and that's why he pulled out of Iraq as well. That they're going to basically Africa, Arabian Peninsula, all these places. They're going to basically just be use drone and
Yeah.
airstrikes and all that. Yeah,
No, I
but
mean they're
yeah,
continuing.
not, yeah, not nation. Now we're just gonna, yeah, we're not gonna even pretend to
Yeah,
do the nice parts. We're just gonna do the,
exactly.
yeah. And I love, but we'll get, but I love, I mean, that's why I mean most of the people who say are leftist are actually national socialists in the specific definition of the word, not in the, I don't mean to bring up connotations of anything, but they're nationally socialist. What they want is socialism for their own nations, like kind of what the Stalin wanted, you know. Uh, that's what they want. They don't like, that they would be very happy with that, most people.
Yeah, no, certainly. Okay, but nice. Is there anything else on Afghanistan? I know there's so much content out there right now. Netflix has Afghanistan a series, HBO, all of them, Amazon, just a bunch of Afghanistan and past
Oh,
20
there are
years since
great,
9/11.
yeah, there are great contents out there, but I mean, the best thing about, I mean, just check out, I suggest, if there any footage regarding this is, check out the footage with Berzinski setting up. Berzinski, by the way, national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, a Democratic president, not the Democratic president who's today is still revered as the nice guy of, like he was too nice. That's why he lost and all. So yeah, check out that video with Berzinski basically setting up Taliban, which is great. It's just it's fantastic. Like God is on your side, so you will defeat the
Yeah.
Soviet forces. And then I believe he does describe it as a trap and all that. It's just fast. It's that just that's the best footage that I've seen so far.
No, definitely. And of course, Bin Laden's back on TV a lot, and the
Is he?
9/11 footage and all that. Or, I mean, a lot of these documentaries and stuff are about him specifically, because
Oh
especially
yeah.
when they talk about, before the invasion of Afghanistan. But no, again, they were showing, I don't know which one of the documentaries it was, but they were showing when, I love this clip. It's just so funny when Obama and Hillary Clinton, they're all in that room and they're about to
Oh
like
yeah.
kill Osama, and they talk about the helicopter that completely crashes into the into the villa
I
and stuff. It is funny.
just it's Chapo Trap House has a great segment on Marines and on special forces and the people who carried out Bin Laden assassination. And it's fast, just it's amazing because they reference some sources which I wrote down, but I don't have the notes in front of me. Those are great. Like, it's fascinating to see the level of incompetence, violence, corruption. All of that is just fascinating.
No, definitely. I mean, I think the Netflix one is semi-decent. I forgot the name, but I haven't seen all of it. And they also talk about like they're just all these stories that we heard a lot in the past 10 to 20 years. Like, when they got Afghani soldiers, like costumes that are more uniforms that are more expensive than even the US ones or something, but they were like still so shit. So they're like, we don't understand how this happened, like where all this what is going
Oh,
on
no,
here
no,
and stuff. All these old
no,
stories resurfacing are so funny.
sure,
Well,
sure.
not
No,
funny, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is funny in a morbid way. No, I meant more specifically about like Marines and stuff, because they
Yeah, no,
are
no, I know what you're
made
saying. Yeah,
out of to be this sort of uh, amazing force,
yeah,
uncorruptible, surgical, and then you find out no, they're really bad at what they do. They include people with at least allegations of rape, pedophilia, uh, murder, and it's you oh, that's one example I remember from an episode. They described one guy whose teammates would mess up with his a sniper thingy. What do you call that, the thing that helps the snipers to focus, the lens? I don't know.
oh, okay, I'm not sure. Yeah,
Yeah, they would mess up with it with his lenses or whatever, because he kept just murdering children and old people.
okay.
Like that was his thing. That was in Iraq though, I believe. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I just yeah. But Bin Laden raid is also a great
yeah,
example of like they killed this 60-year-old clearly with the intelligence like coming from Pakistan, that
yeah.
like they like like it's impossible that they didn't know he's not there. Like he was living in a flat, like watching TV. Anyway.
But it's funny that you say that about the Marines. I used to have this friend when I was doing my bachelor, and he hated, the US, let's say, imperialism and its army, and like he was really against their attack on Libya, but he loved the Marines. He'll be like, but no, 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 the Marines are different. What do you mean the Marines are different?
I
I'm
mean,
like,
look,
shit.
they are
I mean,
they
of
are
course there are
they,
differences, but he hated them, but he
no
saw
in
like, such respect and that they're so like prestigious and that they're above this all and stuff. He had such a positive image
in
of the
terms of
Marines.
yeah, I would say operationally they are bloody like fantastic. Cognitively they can do things
Yeah.
probably no one can do, but that doesn't, and we'll get to that in our points of contention as well, by the way.
Oh yeah, what are you throwing a curved ball here?
Yeah, well, at the end. No, it's just yeah, well, I'll get to it.
We'll get to it. Okay, let's move on to Venezuela now, which is very short news again. So Venezuela's
Mm.
opposition just announced on Tuesday that they will participate in November's regional and local elections. And this is a reversal of their previous strategy of boycotting elections. And of course, then,
That's Leopold Lopez, right?
Leopold Lopez?
The opposition leader.
No, Juan Guaido. I believe is he not the opposition leader, Juan Guaido? I wasn't too sure about that either.
That's the thing. That no, they have like multiple lead.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a official position of leader, but because you had the Lopez guy always, and he was always a bit more towards like let's sort of participate in election, and then you had Juan Guaido, which was the sort of no, let's just go work with the U.S. government straight directly and all that. So I just wondered which one.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt.
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that either. And I was trying. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm. No, I just wondered if Guaido has changed his. Is that Guaido changing his view, or?
I mean, I think it's like more important than Guaido. I think it's like all of the oppositions or the main oppositions who hadn't taken part. So yeah, I wasn't too sure in previous elections. So now they have decided to take part in the election, but I don't understand. I'm not too sure either exactly where he falls. That's like a
because I think even in the last election, Lopez guy participated. They always part, but they do like claim or allege fraud, widespread fraud, and all that. But okay.
Yeah, no, there's still, but I mean, I think they weren't taking part in some local and regional elections.
Oh, before, okay.
Yeah. So look, let me let me read you right here, the New York Times. Yeah, no, it is the opposite
in local
part.
polls,
Listen,
yes.
yeah, no, that yeah, local for sure. The elections happening right now are local. The opposition parties grouped. I hate you. New York Times. The opposition parties grouped in the so-called unitary platform led by Juan Guaido announced a reversal of their stance of boycotting. So yeah, it is.
Led by Juan
Yeah.
Guaido. Wow.
So those ones, so they will take part, and I mean, and they're also at the same time negotiating with Venezuela in Mexico. So there's some negotiation going on, which is a bit strange between the opposition of Venezuela and Maduro government in Mexico. I'm not too sure why, but I mean, I think I was reading and hearing a little bit that, this is good for Maduro, and Maduro kind of welcomed it because, of course, if he beats them now again, he'll be like, you see, it's like more legitimate than if he beats them in these regional local elections. But that's what that was a very short update there. But yeah, I wanted to, I don't know much if there are like other like local or like, let's say, leftist organic forces on the ground in Venezuela, what's going on with them. But I feel like Maduro, I don't know if that's true or not. Maduro is like the last thing left of like Chavez's legacy or not. I don't know. I mean, if he were to ever lose in like a national election, would that be kind of the end of the Chavez thing? And I mean, Chavez was never Lula or beloved that much, but I mean, many on the left used to kind of like him. Then his reputation got ruined a bit.
I mean, Chavez was, there is a bit of a romanticization of Chavez, and
100%.
I think, which is crazy. He was awful. He was like Gaddafi. Again, with Gaddafi, romanticization that he was trying to do this like gold out. He was like Gaddafi changed sides so many times that like there was nobody to betray anymore. Like, same Chavez was he was an awful corrupt politician. I would think there would I don't see any problem, because I think Maduro he was a nobody and had pretty much the charisma of a plaster.
Yeah.
So, and now he's like, power doesn't really, I mean, they bring, I'm sure within their system they have enough people to replace him for now, I would think. And I think his position is strengthening a bit now. So, I don't know. Although I don't know enough about Venezuelan politics enough, maybe there are people actually, things. But yeah. But
no,
yeah,
this seemed like a positive. I mean, I'm guessing this is like a positive kind of outcome for the Maduro government. Yeah.
And I think
maybe even generally,
because even though there's going to be corruption and all that, maybe a couple of competition in these terms, it can be good. Some like power sharing.
No, I mean, it's definitely better than boycotting it and then going around and saying, no, this is actually the the president of Venezuela. I mean, the US straight up invited Juan Guaido to, what was it, to their State of the Union or something, as if
that was
such bullshit.
I mean, yeah, it was just crazy that like it was, I mean, it is a symptom, and it's a perfect symptom of the modern age for everybody, not just US, by the way, all countries, that we all live in these fantasies. Like we all these literally fantasies that, okay, we're not going to recognize Maduro, we're going to recognize this other government, and the whole like Europeans and all that, we're going to recognize a government that is not based in the country and does not operate any of the state institutions. So it was just surreal. It was hyper normalization, I think, crystallized hyper normalization. Is Adam Curtis, famous documentary based on a word to describe the end of Soviet like an analyst that was describing the end of Soviet Union. That just everybody is living in this fantasy for themselves. So, and everybody
Yeah,
knows it's a fantasy, but they have to. You have to keep going, right? Otherwise, what you
just with
gonna
a
do?
straight face, they were like, no, he's now the president. Not even the
No,
government. He didn't even have a team. It was just this one guy. He's just the
he had a
president now.
cabinet, I think, of something. Yeah, I'm
I
sure he
can
had a
see the
cabinet of
US
some
being cheap, like only inviting him or like only giving him an invitation or something to the US State of
Yeah,
the Union. They're like, just come along.
maybe.
You don't need a cabinet. We have some people for you here.
That was crazy. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's I think relatively good news. We'll see.
Okay, so now let's move on to Progressive World Online. And before talking about Chelsea Manning and Glenn Greenwald, which should be some fun, let's first talk about Texas and abortion and Katie Halper's video with a bunch of great guests. So I'll throw it back to you, Sam.
Yes, so we had some interesting development in the US, which I highly recommend checking out Katie Halper's video on the topic with Samuel Moylan and another Kate, who's a comedian, a very funny person, and a former judge who she brings on briefly to talk about it. They go on great details, but to give a very brief overview, what you had was basically a lower court, a lower court in Texas ruled pretty much that people can sue abortion clinics and all that, and Supreme Court pretty much sort of washed its hand off of the thing. They didn't, like, it's not a ruling against Roe versus Wade or anything, but Supreme Court is pretty much like leaving that. And that's, as the lady, the former judge describes in Katie Halper video, is probably the best strategy, sort of silent takeover state by state. Kind of like on the left, you could, it's similar to the strategy with which weed got legalized to an extent. And it's a great video. I think Samuel Moylan, he's just one of the most articulate and best analysts out there. And I think he makes this point, which a lot of people don't make when talking about this issue, which is the core problem, which the issue of abortion sort of symbolize, and as it's a symptom of that, is that there's too much power resting in the Supreme Court in the US. And I agree definitely with that. And and sadly, I recall both in high school and in university, I was taught that having a codified constitution and separation of power are positive political things, and I think they're largely viewed and promoted as such. But I think I personally think, I mean, obviously it's a spectrum, but I think having a codified constitution is actually a bad thing. I personally
What does that
think
mean? What does it mean, a codified constitution?
a written
Okay.
constitution,
And not all countries have that.
and a specific text that is referred to as a constitution.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the UK you have both written and other, I think, or maybe it's just different written sources. And the alternative to a codified constitution is usually precedent, common law and all that. So I think UK, I believe Israel is in a similar fashion, doesn't have a codified constitution. I believe, I mean, most analysts disagree with me there. They say Iran has a constitution. I don't think so. I disagree. I think Iran is more like UK. It has like different written constitutions. So it's not clearly codified. And I think that's a good thing. And I think putting too much power, obviously, in the hands of 9 judges, and I think politically speaking, basically, the power should rest in the parliament. I mean, I have my own issues with how that parliament is elected, but when legislature is not the highest governing body in the realm, then it's not I don't like that word democracy, but it's not it's not a parliamentarian system,
Mhm.
I think. And
Yeah.
I don't, well, I like parliamentarians.
No, I mean, I hadn't thought of this much, but as soon as I heard him kind of make that point, I kind of was like, yeah, that is so true. And I mean, my layman kind of take of it is that I feel like the Supreme Court is an easier way to, like, whether you're in the left or the right, to make something that you want happen rather than going through legislation. So I think whenever it works out for you and you get, the decision that you want, it's good. But
If you,
overall,
yeah,
it's perhaps not the best way of relying for making things happen.
I mean, look, the whole justification and concept is based on the fact that there should be an institution above politics, which is apolitical and interpret like that is the, at least that is the marketing that they're given.
Mhm.
And since such, I think that's a ridiculous idea to have an institution or 9 people who are unbiased or apolitical. I'd never seen such a human being.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think it's a, yeah, I think it's a, I and I hope this leads to an aggressive fight, which leads to maybe abolition or a further limitation of the Supreme Court. I doubt it, but I hope that's what happens.
And I mean, the Supreme Court judges are like picked in the most political way possible. No, it's like the president, president puts in a
I
few
mean,
candidates
two
and then,
two two current Supreme judges. There are very, very, I would say, this is my personal view, very, very, what do you say, very reasonable allegations against them for rape, like
mm,
very reasonable. Both Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh. It's, I mean, that's like 2 out of 9. And I mean, I'm not even referring to Neil Gorsuch, for example, writing in one ruling against all the other judges, writing that a man should have not abandoned his truck
oh
in a
yeah.
freezing cold. He would have died, basically. He said he should have stayed and died for the company. But, so I mean, yeah, but that's a whole different issue than,
Yeah.
whether or not should we have a Supreme Court or not. But yeah, that's a great. Check that video out. It's
Yeah.
a great video, very informative, very substantive.
And
And
just on the abortion law itself, specifics, I
mhm.
think they were saying that people will also be able to go like sue, like, I don't know, like the Uber driver who helped like facilitate getting you to like a clinic where you get abortion or something. They were saying that,
No,
it's
no,
not just
the
abortion.
abortion clinic.
Yeah, but it was saying it can go beyond the abortion clinic, to
Did they?
going after other
I
people. Yeah,
missed that.
kind of. Maybe I misheard it too, but anyway, people go
And
listen to
maybe,
the much better take. But
maybe,
yeah,
maybe, yeah, that maybe like accomplice, like like a boyfriend or husband or
yeah,
something. I don't
I
know.
think that's what they were kind of saying. Yeah, but yeah, but okay, I think yeah, nothing else on that. So we can move
So
on a
should
bit to.
to Ben Norton, shall I?
Oh yeah, please, please.
So Ben Norton, a contributor to the Gray Zone, he did a great video in which he discussed his upcoming article on the Gray Zone. In this article, he went through, I think it's called "How the elite that ruined Afghanistan" or something along those lines. But the main focus of the article is Ashraf Ghani and his corrupt behavior. It's a very informative and substantive article with a lot of great references, and the video is great as well. I would say that there is a little bit of, I mean, it's a YouTube video and we do this as well, but I wished, since it was art, like he was putting it sort of as a thesis thing out there, I wish there was more consistency, because he kept saying, for example, Ashraf Ghani is Milton Friedman of Afghanistan, or Ashraf Ghani was the Pinochet of Afghanistan, and
Mm-hmm.
Ashraf Ghani was Obama of Afghanistan. And I personally, with the I think he was right on the Obama one, right on the money. It was like the Obama version of for Afghanistan. But Milton Friedman was much more of a useful idiot. Milton Friedman probably believed the bullshit he was espousing. He really thought he was like hell. Probably like Milton Friedman. Like he was for, by the way, he was for weed decriminalization, all drugs decriminalization. So I think like that's a useful idiot category type thing. And then you have Pinochet, who's like, you know, he was as Ben Norton describes, he was a brutal man who murdered, and you know,
Yeah.
these were really serious people. You might hate them, but they were serious people. You know, they were willing to carry out coups or shit. You know, it's different from a joke like Trump or Obama or Ashraf Ghani, who don't. They just want to get rich, man. They just want to have some book deals and then go to some warm country and chill out. That's all they want. That's pretty much, and that's what they did and doing. Well done, to them.
Interesting take. Okay, but the Friedman comparison,
but
I'm a bit confused.
by the way, sorry, just one again. The video is great and all. It's just I just thought I add this caveat.
No, it's exactly. It's better than repeating everything he says. So I'm glad that you did that. Good stuff. But so Friedman, we're talking about The Economist. It's like a bit of a weird.
Yeah, Milton Friedman.
Yeah,
Chicago,
bit of a weird comparison.
No, because because he talks about Ashraf Ghani worked in World Bank. He was a neoliberal product and all that, and neoliberal. His economics was even far more neoliberal than somebody like Hamid Karzai or somebody like that. Yeah. But he was like, it's not like Milton Friedman was an academic who actually, like, it's like a religious fanatic that actually works in the temple. And then you have some guy who, what do you want me to say to get money? Liberalism is okay, give me the money. Like that's all they are. There is nothing behind it. That's
no,
it.
He's a serious clown. I have to agree with you there.
I would say, another caveat, I think he's going a bit, sorry, he talks about like, he talks about the fact that he's a product of America and all that. And first of all, I don't think people's childhood and should be that discussed to this extent, because he goes to his family, his dad worked for the monarchy, and I'm sorry, but any Afghani who got out, like what percentage of Afghani people that got outside of Afghanistan like in 90s were not working for one government or other, or in 80s or something, you know? And then he talks about that he went to American Beirut University. American Beirut University is one of the best universities in Middle East. That's not saying much, and it is, you know, liberally like bended towards liberal politics and all that. But to just, this is another institution that is, it's a bit different from World Bank, I think, or IMF, or, you know what I mean? So again, personal stuff, I really don't care, or I just found that to be a bit distracting. That's all.
I see. But okay, great. Look forward to checking that video out. And so you put Pinochet in this very serious category of devils. Who else would you put in such a category, you think?
Pinochet, to be honest, I'm exaggerating a bit, because he was a bit of a joke as well. South American dictators are jokes. Like Mubarak, was a bit of a joke, but at least they could operate. Chavez was a joke, but they could operate his stuff. They had a bit of a populace. They had something. But in a serious category, I would put like serious dictator that's like moves the ball type thing.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the most obvious example, Stalin would be there. I think a Stalin, Bismarck, maybe Thatcher. No, not Thatcher. To a lesser extent, I would say Thatcher is closer to that than FDR, that type of person.
FDR, you should make a video on FDR one day to present your takes.
They had dictatorial, ambitious, some of them successful, some of them not, and they really and they would, or somebody like Ash, because the thing, you saw Ashraf Ghani government didn't last a week, so
yeah.
That's just, or what was the Cambodian Pol Pot, whatever you want. He murdered people who, I believe they murdered people who wore glasses or something.
Jeez.
Crazy.
But okay, all right.
But great video though. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's so much substance that I don't want to repeat. So.
No, for sure. But. All right, so let's move on. Should we move on now to Glenn Greenwald and Chelsea Manning?
Yes, we shall.
So what do you have to say about Sam? So let me first say a few events that happened, and then there's one piece that I didn't know about until today, and that was interesting. But first, of course, it starts up where kind of out of nowhere, although I guess you could have seen it perhaps. I wasn't too surprised when it happened. I was like, but it's kind of nowhere where Chelsea Manning put out this tweet. So it's on the screen right now. And yeah, I mean, the more serious part is that I can't deal with this anymore. I'm terrified of you and everything you do. You're greedy, unprincipled, and embarrassed for ever calling you a friend. So very serious tweet, but again, as per usual, and I was so it was so funny. I saw Glenn was using the same exact word. He was like another vague attack, and I found it to be another absolutely vague attack because I mean she doesn't specify anything at all what she's talking about. So we'll get into it. Of course, more information has emerged through Glenn. But yeah, just like Anna Kasparian and all that, whenever they make attacks of Glenn Greenwald, and I've asked you, Sam, I was like, I'm sure Glenn has changed his opinion on things. I'm sure there are examples, but anytime they attack him, they never mention what are these issues that he's flip-flopped on and that they're so serious. They never mention it. And of course, Chelsea Manning was different. It was more like a pure personality attack. But yeah, she didn't really mention why. So this is a little bit of intro, I guess, to the topic. Anything? Do you have anything to add here?
No, not anything
And
really
then,
substantive. I would just say personally, I completely agree with Glenn on this matter. I mean, that's just my personal take. Although I am very reading the comments and the personal exchanges between them. I will at first. I personally, because you're a close friend of mine, I've told you I have very, very negative feelings and views on Chelsea Manning as a person, as activist, as everything. Like even way before this.
so sorry,
But
before you
reading this,
mentioned that, so yeah, Glenn Greenwald quickly replied back in a tweet. But yeah, what is more interesting is that he put out this article on Substack, which featured all of their conversations since in like 20, all of them happened in 2018, I believe. And Glenn before that was kind of
no, 2016, then 2018,
20,
then yeah.
and that was it, yeah. And Glenn was kind of, and the messages I believe start with a bet Glenn trying to get him on her get her on his show. He backed in on the Intercept, and she had come out of prison, and she was kind of ghosting him, and then she
No,
started
no.
talking to him with kind of why are you on Tucker Carlson and
Okay.
stuff, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, go correct that and then get back into your thing.
I highly suggest everybody check that out for themselves to see the timeline and everything. But it starts with her or somebody from her communication team contacting Glenn,
Oh yeah,
asking to promote her links or her books, I don't know, something, and then him
yeah.
congratulating. It's normalist.
But that's not
Anyways,
their history. That's
but
not the history of the conversation. Yeah, that was when she was still in prison. Her representative would ask Glenn if he can retweet
and
this or
no,
he can
then
retweet
after
that.
that even,
After that, okay, anyway.
yeah.
In any case, all this
I
is in the
mean, it doesn't
Substack
matter.
article. Yeah, that's all I wanted to
Yeah,
say.
it's all chicken. No,
Yeah.
but I wanted to say I personally, before this, I've
Mm-hmm.
had negative views about this individual and all that. And so I just want to be, open about my side. So I never thought like anyways, like I was automatically drawn to side with Glenn, obviously. But then reading the messages, I would say that I don't know, I'm not a professional, I don't anything, but I do feel this is somebody who's in psychological pain, and I think he in needs maybe problems and has some history of that. And I think they need help more than like need to be like I would. I mean, you're like he Chelsea Manning. She's completely wrong on this issue. I think Glenn Greenwald is not. I think on the first of all, she's wrong that you have to 100% agree politically with your friends or they have to at least publicly sort of uh, side with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're not your friends. And I think she's wrong on the freedom of a speech issue, and I think she's wrong to try to deplatform Tucker Carlson or anybody else because it's bad for the left overall, I think. and morally it's bad, to be honest. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
that was a bit
anyway. Like
strange. I mean,
yeah.
that's how
But
the whole
besides that,
conversation
it's just
starts, right? That's her main issue with him, kinda. That
yeah.
appears to be the only issue. It's
Their
Tucker
whole main
Carlson.
issue with Jimmy Dore, with Glenn Greenwald, all these people, their main issue is that they go on Fox News and stuff. And it's not like MSNBC is inviting them,
Yeah,
they need to grow their audience. They need to, and they want to promote their ideas. So
yeah.
I really don't get these people. But I would say I've had same thing happen to personally has happened to me with a lot of friends, though, I think. But I don't know, the messages were a bit, because she comes across as, I don't know, I don't think she comes across as coherent. So I feel like she keeps expressing a lot of pain, I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean,
I
maybe
feel
we'll
under
just,
attack. Yeah.
yeah. And I think maybe this will help your points. So we'll just read the very end in a second, which exactly, it's a bit like confusing and stuff. But yeah, then the messages kind of go back and forth. Glenn kind of makes her feel bad for not having messaged him and stuff while she's been out in prison. So she like apologizes and then comes back to the topic and all this. But interestingly, Glenn got some, before we get to the last part, which I found to be a little bit interesting part of the conversation, but Glenn gets some pushback because in his tweet, he had mentioned that I came and saw you while you were at your lowest and you had like, your suicide attempts and all that, or you were perhaps thinking about committing suicide. So then Glenn, since then, has apologized. So he apologized for that on that day.
Yeah, yes.
I'm
On
trying
the
to,
Twitter thing, yeah, I
So
saw.
yeah, here's this one. When I read Chelsea's
And by the
tweets, I felt betrayed, suicide, but how have you apologized? And I stand by everything else I said. That's my last word on this. Even that, I mean, it's good that he apologized. I mean, sure. I mean, he even apologized on that. I mean, he didn't fully even have to. I mean, he got attacked with this. He had to come out. And I don't have any issues, particularly with him releasing the messages. It's not the best thing, but there wasn't anything too bad and too sensitive in it. And I think when these things happen, just like how Jimmy Dore happened with Anna Kasparian, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I think you have to come out pretty much with all guns blazing if you want to get ahead of this. Any kind of attack.
Okay. I to be honest, I don't think he should have apologized. I think Glenn, because he's been directly attacked by this person, in my view, both publicly and privately, I think he has every right to defend himself and publish the messages that prove that she's basically lying. That why is she terrified of? Terrified of what? What has Glenn said that is terrifying? But I think the online community, as a person, like as somebody who, like, I know a lot of people like to comment, and I never, do stuff online. This, like, Anna Kasparian seemed to me like genuinely being that's an adult,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, she's not in a abnormal state of mind, but this person, I think, maybe at like the messages, they seemed like so much like somebody who has taken something so personally and so much is in pain and keeps talking about the fact that they are not in a financially good position, and which has nothing to do with the issue. Exactly, which has nothing to do with the issue. So I think it was more, it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like somebody who's psychologically breaking down, rather than somebody like Cenk Uygur, who's, I think, he's not like, I don't know, I mean, in a way everybody's crazy. I'm crazier than most, but so I don't know though. But no, I think Glenn shouldn't even have apologized for that, because I think that's a completely fair comment to make, although I can see why some people may interpret that as a
no, exactly,
negative thing.
Yeah, so I mean, people have to read to kind of get the feeling of it, but yeah, it all kind of comes down to this Tucker Carlson thing and her feeling betrayed, and then you're right, taking it in this personal way and bringing up financial stuff as well. I mean, even herself, her other tweet starts with, her first tweets, the original one starts with the whole, as soon as I have the 10,000, I'll give it to you and stuff. So, I mean, it seems to be weighing in heavy on her, or I don't know, I'm not sure.
yeah. I mean, financial difficulties can cause a lot of psychological problems, I think, and you can lash out and use whatever you have to grab to seek attention and all that. So, but you know, typically though, another attack has. But that, again, yeah, that's the thing. You know, yeah, it's very sad though. I've lost quite a lot of friends. Trump thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. My to be honest, I mean, as I live partly, at least part of the time in Iran, and you know, as you know, my views are not welcomed. You know, and
But
a lot of people. I mean, yeah, they don't have any legal means to
mhm.
you know, but they cut off relations, you know, and and that's the thing, they fight you, and when you stop fighting them and you say, okay, let's just be friends and not let's not talk about this thing that we disagree, then they just put you aside. So, you know, it happens, it's just normal.
Yeah, I feel like often that might happen with people who are apolitical because if you're political and you think about it a lot, I mean, on the surface, it might seem like, okay, there's some people, you know, clearly you don't see eye to eye on issue X or Y. But even with people that you think you see kind of, you know, you're kind of on the same page, all it just takes is a little bit of talking, and then you'll quickly realize that you're perhaps not on the same page at all. Like us, it just takes like a few minutes of discussions before we completely
That
diverge. So we're kind of used to that, but I feel like some people are not used to it, then they just maybe take it so personally. Because if not, I challenge anyone. I mean, just starting with your parents, most people, their parents would vote for
no,
somebody else than them, and that's their
yeah,
parents. Then their siblings, childhood friends probably disagree with you like fully. So I mean, this, yeah.
but I think, to be honest, the problem comes from actually this middle segment. I actually don't
Mhm.
think it's people who don't know. Actually, what
I think I'm referring to the
Alexander
same
Pope,
segment maybe of people, but yeah, go ahead. Maybe I mean the
maybe,
same.
yeah, like like Alexander Pope said, little learning is a very dangerous thing, and I think that's the perfect case of that. They know enough to argue, but they don't, like, you know, they don't know. They like the liberals who say, "Oh, you're just ideological," and you're like, "Yeah, I am. Everybody's
Yeah.
ideological." They don't have the, you know, they know a little. They
Yeah.
have a little learning,
Okay.
but they're not fully apolitical, because
Political. I see
fully
what you're saying. Yeah.
apolitical people are just, you know, having fun, and they actually, I have some friends who are fully apolitical, and that's actually fun sometimes, you know,
No,
like
no, fair enough. Okay.
some somebody who like
Yeah.
you know, somebody, you know, people whose whole life is focused on movies or
Yeah.
sports or something.
Yeah, no, no, fair enough there. But yeah, I mean, she shouldn't be so disappointed that if you ask me.
No, I mean, when you publicly attack somebody,
Yeah.
you deserve everything you get. That was just the, yeah, I mean, yeah, that was
No,
the
I
feeling.
just meant with like,
uh,
you know, her feeling that Glenn Greenwald is so far away from like her
oh
views
yeah,
and all
that's
that. I
crazy.
mean, that's just how it is and how
I
upset she is herself and stuff
I
over
mean,
the issue today.
yeah, it's I yeah, she's just, I mean, these people, I hate, yeah, this kind of people who, even if you do, like, with what, did you think this would work? Did you think
Yeah.
messaging like Glenn Greenwald and
I don't know
don't
what
go
she
on
was
Tucker?
thinking that. I mean, I feel that was such an easy, like, he like, he like did the whole thing in like 5 hours. The tweet goes up, he already replies, he posts an article, puts everything out, throws in an apology, and that's it.
I doubt he's enjoying this, to be
No,
honest. You
no,
know,
no, no.
nobody likes.
I'm just saying it was such an easy attack on him that he didn't even have to make a video like he did against Anna Casper or TYT. I mean, he just
Yeah,
quickly
it was
people
just so
put it
bad. Yeah,
aside.
so pitiful.
Yeah,
So,
but
and
this,
by the way, I will. Oh, I like to. This was something I wanted to point out, that Glenn is one of the very few people who hasn't played this game, because I do think media also plays this game, that they keep trying to pit the whistleblowers like
mm,
Chelsea Manning and Edward
mhm.
Snowden against Julian Assange, and to a lesser extent now Glenn Greenwald. And I even remember, like, yeah, now, like, all these articles that would say, Assange have bad words for Snowden and Glenn,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would read the article on Guardian or something, and you would see, no, he didn't. He didn't
Yeah.
say anything bad about them. They took something thing to make, they try to start a fight between these people. So I'm sure Chelsea Manning is surrounded by similar sort of type people in New York, wherever she is. So that's possible. And Glenn Greenwald never played that. He never sold out Assange for personality, because whatever he said.
No, 100%. And I mean, we keep on getting, like I was telling you, I think this would be good. Maybe watch a few of the interviews, and if they're good, do this. Maybe take like 5 or 10 of Glenn Greenwald's Tucker Carlson interviews, watch them. We can watch them live together, and then see, I mean, where are some points of contention where we can push Glenn back on something. He's getting all these
I'm sure
accusations. I'm sure there are, but yeah, maybe we can help Anna Kasparian out of it.
Freedom of speech is not one of them.
But man, I was watching the videos and I was already dying. I was trying to watch one of them for a bit. Tucker Carlson is the funniest actor ever. When Glenn is talking, he's like, I mean, I kind of want you to pay the same level of attention to me.
He's famous for his I don't want to for his
what do you call that?
I don't know how to put it politely, but anyway, for his idiot thinking face, or for a face that usually men make after a certain leisure activity. But he wants to pretend that he's paying attention.
Yeah.
He's always,
it was so funny.
the opener the mouth and the bigger the eyes, the more attention he's paying. I mean, he's a good showman, I suppose.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, let's just wrap up this story with this last the last exchange that they had, which featured in the Substack. So Chelsea Manning, and I'll be featuring this on the screen. Glenn Greenwald sends a message to Chelsea Manning being like, hey, like I told you, this Emily G person, I don't know who she is. I haven't blocked her, but she blocked me. And then Chelsea comes back and saying, why are you telling me this? And basically earlier on in the conversation, it kind of started one of the conversations with Chelsea Manning asking,
she said that you blocked
why
my
did you
friend.
block him? And he's like, no, I was just showing you because I didn't block. So she blocks me, but I didn't block her. And then she responds with, why are you telling me this is there? And he explains. And then she goes with, can you chill out? You're constantly exchanging potential material gains for your own benefit. I know you're living large. So this message kind of encapsulates everything you're saying. I know you're living large and all, but I'm living in a closet-sized apartment in Brooklyn without health insurance and constantly waiting for a break on mass quarantine. You're causing actual material harm, embracing this mad Nazball. So again, referring to Tucker Carlson. I mean, this is not attack, but because it's really hurting, I'm just tired. So again, her showing this emotional toll that the fact that Glenn Greenwald is going on Tucker Carlson has on her for some reason, because again, she didn't point at anything else. And also the first line, I was like, can you chill out? You're constantly exchanging material gains for your own benefit. Well, he was defending himself against your previous accusation that he had blocked someone.
Maybe that was a reference to appearing on Fox and exchanging material on Substack. I don't know, maybe like putting material online. But again, it's very
It's kind of sad too. I reread it now. It's kind of, I was more bothered by the first 2 lines.
I really wanted to be happy because I don't like this person, and I'm happy that larger number of people now agree with me that this person never. That's a different discussion. But but at the same time, it's sad because I've lived with and dealt with a lot of people with bipolar and borderline and all that. And that's one of the reasons I'm attracted to Marxism, because I think economics is a pretty good explanation usually for psychological behavior. Especially young childhood economic upbringing.
And I mean, Chelsea Manning, but I mean, what she was put through after also when she released those leaks, I mean, that must have had insane impact. I mean, back then I used to watch Democracy Now! A lot, and they would cover the court cases and everything, and they would show this basic little tomb that she was kept in for a long time and all that. So I mean, the impact that all of them, she was straight up tortured. So I mean, she has definitely been through hell, although it doesn't really justify the kind of attack there.
No, yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
not a justification,
it's
but I
maybe more of
hope
an
she has some
explanation, or
friends
yeah.
that, yeah, that's, yeah.
But
Or
okay.
like if she does apologize, I think we should be open to it because
Oh,
it's different
100%.
from some others, I think.
I
Yeah.
think if anybody apologized, should be more or less open to it. But I mean, if you're referring to TYT and Annika Spear, they don't apologize. They just
Yeah.
double down every now and then.
Cenk, no, Cenk. No, Cenk apologizes kind of, but in a
About
very
like
like,
900 years ago, though. I mean, like specific
yeah.
apology about something. I mean, he had to apologize about his past. I mean, and apparently
Yeah,
they've all
I'm just saying.
apologized about the recent. But one
Or
last
Jake,
thing.
a lot of people go to jail and find Christianity or Judaism or Islam and then come out and apologize. Like, it's
Yeah.
that's different. Yeah, I'm just saying.
And on Twitter, it was funny. Last thing, I'll just feature this on the screen as well. Like a few of the more notable people who had commented back, who had commented were there. So there's the Vosh one. And then I love the Anna one. Projecting is a hell of a drug. That's all she tweeted. Like she always comes with these, like, she's kind of turning into like these one-liner right-wing kind of population where they just like put a saying or an idiom or like something, analogy, and then move on. Projection is a hell of a drug. Okay, well, thank you for that, Anna.
Yeah. What can I say?
But okay,
is.
moving.
She's right, but not in this context.
But yeah. So okay, let's move on to our next story. And so this is Progressive Research Review. It's more of a neutral research. It's not particularly progressive or something else, but I thought it was
find that a bit alarming.
Yeah, no, definitely. So this report was put out by the World Meteorological.
Not for the reasons you think.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Well, let me give the findings and then you can say like anything that you want. And I promise you will stay friends after, although I might take
I
it to
don't know.
Twitter. Okay. So the new report
Publish
is
all.
is by the World Meteorological Organization, which is a specialized agency of the UN responsible for promoting international cooperation on atmospheric science and climate change. So they just put out a new report which looks at the human and economic losses from weather, climate, and water extremes between 1970 and 2019, so the past 50 years. Here is the main finding. They're saying that weather disasters are striking the world 4 to 5 times more often and causing 7 times more damage than in the 70s. But these disasters are killing far fewer people. In the 70s and 80s, they killed an average of 170 people a day worldwide, whereas in 2010s, it dropped down to about 40 per day. So I have some more breakdowns. You already want to say something, or should I just break down the numbers just a little bit more quickly? So again, number of disasters, they're saying, has increased by a factor of 5. Okay, so between 1970 and 79, for instance, there were 711 disasters, but from 2000 to 2010, there was 3,500 of them. But the number of deaths has, of course, dropped a lot. It was 50,000 deaths in the 1970s, and it dropped to 20,000 in 2010s. And so who is hit the hardest? More than 90% of the 2 million deaths have happened in the developing world, whereas the economic damages, most of it, 60% of it, have happened in richer countries. And then 35% of the deaths were unfortunately in Africa. And then we can show you the kind of top 10. I mean, there was big droughts in Ethiopia and Somalia, if I'm not mistaken. So they counted a lot. And these are the type of disasters. So 44% of them are due with floods, that kind of thing. And around 17% are associated with tropical cyclones. So these are kind of like 2 of the biggest type of disasters that happen more frequently, I believe, not in terms of people killed and that. And then there's a little bit on climate change and associating it to climate change and how much we can do that, but I can come back to that. So I don't know, the only last thing we can look at together, Sam, before I pass it back to you, are the top 10 countries, are the top 10 most deadly, which I sent you the chart, if I'm not mistaken. The top 10 most deadly Why did I not have it in front of me? Sorry about that. So, okay, the top 10, there we go. Top 10 disasters ranked according to either death and economic losses. So deaths, we can see again, going back all the way to the 80s, 300,000 people in Ethiopia. Whereas when you look at the cost ones, it's all the US. And I guess it's all these very damaging storms that, of course, destroy everything on their path. But the US is able to, of course, evacuate people. And I mean, it's much different than a drought, which is long lasting. But yeah, so I guess the overall finding is that they say that there are more of these kind of events, 5 times more, just comparing the past 50 years. But the number of deaths have decreased. So I mean, I guess there's been some progress made on that front. But yeah, what comes to your mind? Anything comes to your mind? Quite a few
Well,
things.
that's the thing. You put that as a you put that as a progress. It seems that climate change is failing at its one thing that it was good at, which was getting rid of this disease that is destroying planet Earth called humanity.
Oh my God.
Although again, I know most of the people who are being damaged by climate change are not responsible for most of the pollution, and it was
Probably all of
generations
it, yeah.
before and all that. But I do think it's sad though, but it looks like the dystopian future. If anybody watches the TV show The Expanse, or maybe Snowpiercer, if you've seen that movie, the TV show is awful. This dystopian future that will be basically, we pretty much will be living in something like an ant colony and in small cities. Judge Dredd, if anybody's seen the movie or read the comics, that's our future. Mega cities walled up with like large pieces of earth just being like either hellfire or like just ice cold and all that. Sadly, it seems that's where we are going. It's going to be these tiny mega cities, and yeah, probably going to end up eating cockroach and all that. So it's good.
I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. I mean, not in that much of the near future. I don't think it's going to be that much of a doom and gloom.
Oh no, it's going to be not. I won't probably see that specifically, but I think our children will start to see. We already start to see. Look at like Tokyo, New York, Moscow, like these cities, London. They're multitude of cities. They're not real.
Yeah.
Like they're mega cities already, and rural areas are where they're like deforestation, all that.
No, I see. But I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm as doom and as gloomy as you with this. I mean, I don't quite understand. I mean, what is your point with it? That the population is just going to continue increasing?
No, it had nothing to do with population. It's to be honest here, I didn't want to. That was just I tried to be funny there, but no. It's just this research that you sent me just to me reflects that trend that we are gonna be. The reason why we are probably dying less is because we are being more concentrated in cities. That's what is pro.
I mean, I don't know if it's because
I don't know.
They've gotten so much better at kind of. I think. I mean, in the report, I didn't pull this part out, but they talk about how disaster and risk reduction and all this have improved, and these are kind of things that humanity, with some money, does some good job at improving now and then, although at a slow pace. But also the other interest. Yeah.
But that's even put that aside. Maybe it was due to improvements in techniques and technology and practices. All I'm saying is that this report and other things are, in my view, we are going towards mega cities though. We're going to be locked up in a thing, and then there is like transportation to where some things are produced, very specific labor. Like it's going to be very, very dystopian, I think.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, it's hard to imagine, right? Like our cities were totally different, let's say 150 years ago. So, I mean, who knows what in 150 years they will look like.
To be honest, I've seen, I mean, anybody who lived in a big city has seen gentrification probably happen in one way or another. So I can definitely see, like the area where I grew up in was all gardens with fruit trees. Now it's all tall towers and commercial buildings within 25 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
less than that. And yeah, and at the same time, outside of cities, we are doing deforestation and blah blah blah. Anyways, but
No,
great
100%. These
report.
trends are
Yeah,
not
like not
good.
great, but yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, again, this report and the other ones, they kind of point out. So I'll just get to the climate change a bit, that although you can't blame it all on climate change, far from that. But I mean, it seems like, there is there's quite a strong link. So just on
No,
climate
it's.
change.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
nobody. Climate change is not a persona. It's not a character in a movie. You can blame.
Yeah.
Climate change happens, and it happens at different rates. Clearly, human activity has accelerated to the point that human infrastructure cannot keep up with it. So it's preparations for climate change. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And how important they are. That's the real issue.
No, 100%. I mean, exactly. It's not something that's just going to get solved. I mean, you're always just going to have to work on it,
You have to
and,
build
reduce your
dikes and
impact
dams
as much as possible. And yeah, everything. And then, yeah, so just on climate change, so they point out that even if there were no anthropogenic changes in climate, so due to human activity, the climate changing, a wide variety of natural weather and climate extremes would still occur. But just on the research, on the literature research, they talk about how smaller events are really hard of, saying how much of it has increased due to climate change. It's more like bigger seasonal long ones. But they say heat waves are one of the most, like, where the science is like most certain that, that heat waves are increasing due to climate, due to human activity. That's like one of them. But for instance, they say that unlike heat waves, the attribution of drought events to anthropogenic factors has not yet led to clear conclusions. They also say less is known about anthropogenic influences on hurricane and tropical cyclone activity. And they say there's medium confidence that anthropogenic climate change has increased observed precipitation. But if you want to see more,
that's since 70s, right?
Yeah.
Compared to 70s.
Yeah.
The 70s was like half of Europe was still like producing coal like crazy. Yeah.
And then, but if you want to know more about this, really, I just went and looked at it a lot. That's where they really talk about the science, which is the UN's latest IPCC report. So I believe it's number 6. And really there they say how much scientists and, people in this field have determined how much of these can be attributed to climate change. And if so, how much more of these events will increase over in the near future. But yeah, okay, that's about that, Sam. And then we were going to talk in our last segment, which is kind of in the same theme. It's called points of contention. So things where we disagree on and we still manage to remain friends despite that. Did you see, by the way, someone commented that our friendship is like a goal, or like our friendship is gold or something? So that was good. Yeah,
yes,
one of the commenters.
That was very nice.
That was very nice of them. I'll flash it on the screen.
I would say they don't know the half of it. But
Sam, okay.
This is all a show. We hate each other. It's like what? Jane Fonda? No, not Jane Fonda. Judy Garland. I'm mixing up my Hollywood history. Sorry.
But okay, so I'll first do my story in this, and then we can talk about some other remaining things to clarify. So the first thing is, well, I guess it started from point of contention, but then I went and, learned something that I was quite a bit surprised, and I didn't think that it was that much. So, so you brought up how you had seen, we're talking about population control and lifestyle changes for, combating climate change, other kind of issues and everything. And you mentioned that, how you had seen this program on BBC, which pointed out that the dog in the family like emitted more emissions than was responsible for more greenhouse gas emission and stuff. So, I mean, I couldn't go and find that program again exactly, but I went to find a little bit in the...
Oh, you found something better, I think.
Yeah, something worse, better or worse, however you want to put it.
I take my knowledge from BBC quiz shows. You take it from like real research.
Oh, yeah. So I went, and apparently the literature on dogs' impact on climate change is very limited. So apparently there are only a few studies. Every news article that I clicked on took me back to kind of the same 2 or 3 research papers. But Sam, I was a bit shocked. So as a vegan pet owner myself, I was a bit shocked about this, but then I found some ways of making myself feel better. So we can get to that at the end. But they're saying that the 106, this is according to a study by UCLA professor, the 163 million dogs and cats in the US ate 1/4 of the 94.3 pounds of meat the country produced in 2015. In other words, as much as 62 million Americans. So apparently pet dogs and cats in the US ate as much meat as 62 million Americans. And this generated as much greenhouse gas emissions
I love
as
you
12
focused on that.
million passenger vehicles in the United States. So pretty much dogs and cats are responsible for 25 to 30% of the environmental impact of meat consumption in the US. And then I just have some figures from the UK. Roughly twice the size of the UK, right, is used annually to make dry food for cats and dogs. So sorry, I think this is for around the world
Jesus.
or for like all markets, I believe. I don't know why I don't have that specifying it, but yeah, it's saying roughly twice the size of the UK are used annually to make dry food for cats and dogs. So I've thought of a few solutions on how to how to
That's why I
combat this
don't
issue,
look.
but
That's, by the way, why I don't look too deep into things, because you just get more depressed and more
yeah.
depressed. Yeah, go ahead.
But this is, I mean, it makes complete sense because dogs and cats, they pretty much need to eat, they have to eat a lot of meat. Or, I mean, or one of the kind of solutions are in this area is if they switch to like chicken products and fish products. And for instance, I was looking at my dog's food, but she's like a small dog, but I did go and get her like good food. So because before she was having issues, and like 40% of it are fruits and vegetables and 60% are chicken and fish.
By the
So
way,
if you
fruits and vegetables do contribute to deforestation as well. It's not
to
just
deforestation,
meat.
100%. Oh yeah, here we're just talking
Yes.
about greenhouse gas emissions. So exactly, producing food. But I mean, I think this is just an important thing that people need to take into consideration. Like I remember, and I think some dog owners, this was never like promoted that much. And I'm into this and I never heard about this. Like for instance, whenever you get a dog, there are all these websites that advocate on why you should neuter your dog or spay them in the for girls. And one of the reasons that they give, which was one that I was resold on, because of course there's the issue of always watching over your dog, making sure that they don't get impregnated or impregnate someone else, or if they're girls, then they get periods and all this. And that's not, that's also a trouble for them. But the other one that they mentioned, maybe you'll like that, Sam, was overpopulation of dogs. There were already all these homeless dogs out there. So if you prefer, don't don't let your dog have
I
nine
actually
kids,
hate that.
have 9 kids. So therefore, it doesn't contribute. And no matter how many homes you find, some of them could still easily end up in bad situations. So I think just like how they educate dog owners about that, this should be at least included in it. So there's at least some awareness. I mean, I had no
I
idea, but
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I genuinely disagree with you so much
On what?
on on so many levels. It's just
Good.
for my point is, if we want to live a good life, that everybody has a garden and somebody wants to have a pet, they have a pet and all that, like we can't do it at this level of population. Just it's not possible. And that was just example of that. So this idea that you just put forward, that maybe they should promote, maybe they should educate about how responsible dog ownership or responsible feeding, it's not about that. It's like the idea that using water responsibly, using gas responsibly, that's not working. It's about, again, about the volume. So the idea of educating people and all that, I think that has failed in so many different things. And about the dog thing, I think unless you have like land where the dog can, like this whole pets in, I know this is something that is very close to your heart as well, but I really genuinely feel this is like slavery. I don't understand how everybody's cool with, and look at the pictures of dogs from 100 years ago and to now. And growing up, I grew up with dogs. We never neutered them. We had the doctors and all that, and we never, horses, same. some people have them neutered, and for different, like I don't like this. I don't like I don't like this is like if aliens come tomorrow to Earth and they're more intelligent than us, then it's cool for them to neuter us and and have us as a slaves and take us. I just don't like it. I again, only dogs, because they seem to form some bond. And if you have land, big dogs, like if you have a space, other, like I see these people who have huskies and German shepherds in apartments, and that's as bad as the slavery. And I'm not one of those crazy people, by the way. In France, for example, that actor that thinks that, like, the people who eat food are all like genocidal. There is this famous French actress who goes on about, like, if you eat meat, you're a genocidal maniac. But this is like a living creature. Like, I don't get it. I really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could meet you kind of halfway, because I mean, some of the stuff that you're saying, of course, for sure. I mean, I don't understand why exactly, like someone who has an apartment, why do they have to go get a big dog? And a big dog needs to behave in a totally different way than a small dog. They are both dogs, but they do behave very
Well, one
differently.
thing.
I'm taking the easier arguments first, but
No,
sure,
no,
go ahead.
wait. The same exact reason the super rich guy takes the tiger in his house. That's what he can do to gain attention.
Oh, perhaps, or maybe people don't think about it. I mean, that's true, but some people are like, oh, I love this kind of dog, and they don't just think about it and they just get it. I mean,
Yeah,
people
just
do
they
also
think
make
about
bad
themselves
decisions.
only.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, of course, having a pet is kind
Yeah.
of all about you, especially when you go get a pet that was just bred. It is all about you. But I mean, a small dog, let's say, that you keep in your house or stuff, if they've been neutered and all this, I mean, you're not causing psychological damage on them by having them as a dog owner in your house. I mean, it's different than if you're keeping someone in your house, or if you're keeping a big animal in your house, you could be impacting them negatively, but not necessarily with dogs. And the last thing about dogs is that dogs are like a human creation. So, I mean, doesn't mean that humans should treat
No,
them
they're
badly
not.
and stuff. They pretty much are. I mean, they very much try to domesticate types of wolves who were nicer and nicer with humans,
You have
and then
wild
breeding
dogs,
them. Yeah,
all,
I know there are, but all these little
and they're
dogs,
free.
that different kinds of dogs that we've made, they've all
And
been made
by
to
the way,
human breeding and selection, most of them.
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, and I don't
Well,
know if this like makes them different and stuff, but they are a
no,
bit
but
different in
but
this
they're
sense.
living beings. It's like
Yeah.
people who are like, I'm actually not against like GM foods, for example, genetically modified foods, because I think we should get there and we should start like improving. How we do it matters. But these are living things. I don't even believe in a soul, but I think they suffer, they feel pain. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
just,
mean, if you
again, it's
torture
not,
them and if you do bad stuff and stuff,
not
I mean, I
torture
don't,
even.
or if you do
I
bad
don't.
stuff to them.
A lot, by the way, there were loads of slaves who were in love with their masters, who loved them like God. Why? Because they never were allowed to leave the, like until at least they developed
Yeah.
the brain, they weren't allowed to leave the castle or whatever it was. So I don't see any. I really, I do admit that there are certain breeds of dogs now that cannot live without human help and all that. So,
Yeah,
fair enough.
a lot of them now can. But I mean, just coming back more to the climate change thing,
Just,
okay? I mean,
just by
and just
and anybody who's been to Turkey or Georgia, I think you'll see all these wild dogs, wild cats. They're living their lives. They have
oh
tags
yeah,
and
Brazil.
shit. Just leave animals alone. I don't get it. Just leave them alone to
No,
be.
no, like in Brazil. But okay, I mean, just coming back to the climate change aspect and stuff, right? You say it's all about volume, but precisely it's about volume. I mean, like I kind of meet you more halfway now, because even let's say if you have 2 billion people on this planet, they still can't do whatever they want. So at the end of the day, it's about still lifestyle. So I mean, that's important. But now I feel like
I
you're dismissing that too much.
I think if you have 2 to 3 billion people on Earth, they can do pretty much whatever they want
But why? That's
without
only half of the
putting the risk.
population of now. But where'd you
Wait,
get
wait.
that from? I don't get it.
Because I get that, because I don't mean that just in terms of like doing, like having a pet, having a swimming pool. Organizationally, 7 billion people, in my view, are unmanageable
But I don't see
organization.
how you know that
But
7 billion aren't manageable, but 3 billion
with
are.
no, with the current level of infrastructure, it's just the level of population has passed the current level of infrastructure and what Earth can handle with the current technology. Maybe tomorrow we find a new technology that changes the whole game. We can turn salt water into gold, and we can turn salt into oxygen. We can turn CO2 back to oxygen. That can happen. Technology can improve. But with the current thing, our main focus should be reduction of population. Our main focus shouldn't be these little adjustments, you know? It should
But
be
these are
a global program of population control.
my other point with that actually is even if you agree that sure, like going forward, we based on like the current technology and the current way that people are living and stuff, if we go and Bobby, by the way, populations aren't meant to be increasing forever and ever, right? There are now estimates that by turn of the century, it's going to start coming back down. So that's just something to bear in mind. But you need to have also lifestyle and these kind of ideas. If not, I mean, I just don't see if there are 2 billion people or 3 billion people, if continue people doing everything, why would the technology or the infrastructure then be able to handle? And final thing,
because
population control will only start bearing fruits in like 40 to 50 years. So, I mean, right now, it's not an immediate solution either.
Look, man, right now and for the last 30 and I would say maybe 100 years, the people have been reproducing at a growing rate, serving the political interests of people who take advantages of human frailty, human stupidity, and human self-love. But all of it, by the way, applies to me more than any of our viewers, most probably, or anybody who ever watches this. So at the current population levels, they can easily do that because our political systems, our infrastructure is not sophisticated. But when population was less, they could, like, you know, when you have 100,000 crazy people, you can do a lot of things. But when you have like 5 crazy people, it's much.
Yeah, but that's a big difference. You went from 100 to 5.
It is a big, yeah. It's
yeah. I mean,
okay.
That's huge. Just dividing the population in 20. But then again, you see countries of different sizes of population, and that doesn't lead to better governance. A country with 80 million can have better governance than a country with 40 million easily. So there are a lot of other factors to bear in mind.
If you look at
why not Germany and Italy?
If you look at the amount of arable land, if you look at the amount of water, and then population, and then measurements that look at like quality of life and that type of thing, Northern European countries are always on top. Germany and Holland are always on top. Canada is always on top. What's the population of Canada? 30 million? There is a reason for that, because that's, by the way, putting aside the whole history of European imperialism that is explaining why they can, you know, be at the position they are, right? It's like it's much easier to manage a smaller group of people than large groups of people.
Technically, in most cases, they are, but they're still not always the case. And I mean, I'm just trying to make the point now that I'm not only saying that like lifestyle or better governments and all this is needed. I agree that at some point, you know, you can have unlimited amount of people, but all those things contribute to volume that you were talking. That's kind of all I'm saying. And I'm also saying with the governance, you see, okay, within Europe, why is Germany probably ranks better at all these things than you said than Italy? And they're two, you know, very close European countries, and Germany probably has double the population of Italy.
By the way, Bavaria, yeah, but like, for example, Bavaria has some of the best, you know, lands on earth in terms of industry. But that's different. That was man-made in terms of industry. Or Bavaria, I mean, European Union was started as the European Coal and Steel Community because there was coal and steel industries there. You know, these things, geography is pretty much everything, I think, in many ways. Or at least it was. Now that's gone global and all that. Maybe it's technology. But again, I just think with the current level of infrastructure, I think we can manage maybe about 3 billion, maybe.
I don't know.
And we should.
I don't
And
know
right now,
what the
by the
number
way,
is.
majority of governments, a lot of them in the developing boards, including China, they're completely pursuing the opposite policy and are looking to increase populations because politically short term it's beneficial.
And because, I mean, a lot of them, their populations are also dropping. And of course, you lose certain advantages when you have
You
less
can
people as
invest
well.
in tech, you can invest in automation and not make more slaves that gonna live in gutters and never see
No, I mean,
sunlight or apple.
education about reproduction and all this is completely
Oh,
important.
yeah.
And I take a lot of the points that you're saying. Yeah. But again, I think if you have 3 billion people and they do whatever the hell they want, they can cause a lot more damage to the planet and continue, you know, going forward with climate change and everything. So, I
Look,
mean,
I'm just
you know, can't fall in this
let's
false
be
dichotomy, which I think I had fallen in a little bit. So I kind of realized I was completely
fair enough.
dismissing population and like,
Of
sure,
course,
of course,
if
population plays a role, but
one person with one push of his fingers right now can destroy the whole planet with nuclear bombs. That's possible, but it's far less likely to happen when there are 3 billion, in my view, than when you have 7 billion going around. And when you have 7 billion going around, that you have nobody knows what's going on.
but
Like,
even if
there
you
is
have
this
3 billion,
pretense.
you'll still know, you won't know what's
No,
going on.
you can have proper surveillance systems. You can
I
have
don't know.
sewage systems. You can have.
Seems like you're very set on this 3 billion. You should become a
Ah,
politician just running on this 3 billion.
Okay.
It reminds me of that guy who's running for Republican.
Herman Cain.
Yeah, I just
Herman
like
Cain.
999. He's like, yeah, that's a good
999.
number for taxes. I'm just gonna. Like, where did you pull that from?
No, I know. Yeah, no, it's just because I was looking, like basically we were 3 billion, I think, or less at the start of the 20th century. So that's by repeating. Well, you're right. Their number has. I haven't done it. I should do it. I have done it. Sporadically researched different topics on this matter and came to this. But I should do a proper research in which I evaluate, like, what do I mean by infrastructure and what do I mean by institutions and how much population can they actually handle. So I am talking out of my ass a lot here. It's just the take based on many different observations of different things.
Okay. All right. But just to wrap up with the dog part. So for anybody who wants to do it because they think it matters or for just themselves to feel better, I mean, one point to take away is that we should bear in mind the greenhouse gas emissions that dogs are responsible through their food only, really, something I hadn't paid too much attention. And of course, their food can vary a bit. You know, they can eat fish, they can eat chicken instead of meat. But this one caught my attention. Listen to this, Sam. Vets in the US classified more than 100 million dogs and cats as overweight or obese. so that's more than like 2/3 of them are out of shape. So maybe also cutting back on the overeating there. And just like how they advocate about other things now, whether you think that it's efficient or enough or it means anything, these little things, I mean, it's just a good thing to bear in mind before we got into the whole philosophical conversation about, you know, neutering our dogs and keeping them as slaves and all this, as Sam said. But yeah, and apparently the research is very minimal on this, and I can see why. Like, not many people will be happy with finding out like the dog's impact and stuff. So these numbers can also be vague in the research. Sorry, they can't be a bit misleading in the research. They said there's just very little database to go about for these kind of studies. But so that's that. I've learned something new about my. I mean, not that I didn't know. I just never thought about it that much. Learned. Yeah, you never thought about it that well. But, and just one last thing that I wanted to bring up about this from last week, and I'm not sure if you actually meant to say this or you just made a sign, but you kind of made it seem like human breeding contributes to climate change. And I'm not sure if you did that or not. But
human breeding, as in,
yeah, like the CO2
like more humans
that we emit, if that contributes to climate change. And apparently it does not at all. Because based on what I was reading,
human activity.
No, not human activity. Of course it does. Yeah, of course. I mean, I knew that you didn't mean that. That was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I think the causality between human activity and humans is very clear, but a lot of people seem to think no. So
No, but with breathing, do you know why breathing doesn't contribute to climate change necessarily, like human breathing, like when we exhale CO2?
I don't understand your point.
Why do
Like, what do you
humans
mean?
exhale CO2, right? Like when we breathe out.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all
When we
right.
breathe
As
out,
in, like when the number goes up, the
yeah. I mean,
number. Okay,
it
okay,
doesn't
okay,
matter
bro.
at
Sorry.
all how many humans. Apparently, someone
Oh,
correct me if
really?
I
No,
didn't understand.
I never thought about.
Yeah, I never thought about it. Why? But it never comes up. No one ever says, "Oh,
I'm
less
sure
humans should less
it's
breathe."
to an ex. We might.
it, this
Why
is based
not?
on what I understand. Listen, this is based on what I understand. Because the CO2 that we produce all comes from the plant, from the food that we had just eaten. And that had taken the CO2 because of photosynthesis and all that through just from the recent amount of carbon that's in the atmosphere. So it's kind of like a cycle from based on what I understand. So you're pretty much breathing back out the carbon that the plant had taken. Whereas the difference with burning fossil fuel is that you're emitting all this carbon that had been sequestered in Earth, in the planet for billions of years. So that's why you're adding it. I mean, I had never thought about it, but yeah, that's why apparently,
I
like, no matter how many humans breathe, we're just part of like the cycle of the CO2 that was taken from the atmosphere by the plants, then maybe gone to the animal, then we eat it, and then we exhale it back out. So someone correct me if I'm
look.
wrong there. It was very like biology oriented explanation,
Yeah, exactly.
but apparently that is I had to read the same thing like
Reason.
10 times. I think I got it.
Uh,
But
that's the thing.
anyone,
I'm shaking my head in agreement, but I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, I don't like yes, but yeah, no, I
yeah.
meant human activity. All
Yeah,
right, I
no, of
got
course,
your.
human
All right,
activity. Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
of course, right. So yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So in a
yeah, if
way,
you
our
like 10 billion in a box, like Matrix, that's yeah, I think that's
yeah,
possible. But yeah,
like that's a bit different. But anything else for this segment of points of contention that you wanted to bring up or
no, I
clarify?
just
Did you
wanted
have?
to some clarifications regarding some of the comments about my comments in a video. So first, let's just I want to apologize about the co-op comment. In not to apologize for what I said. I apologize for being just making an offhand remark, and it's just I went on a tangent and I wasn't very clear on my points and stuff, and it wasn't a subject I have done a deep dive into. I did start doing research, and I hope to do a video to make my views clear. But to make my general like thing, just to make the point, I would say that I think the people who commented and pointed out my mistake are completely right, and studies show that co-ops have a much better internal structure than most corporations or other businesses, and withstand economic crisis, economic shocks. So as in terms of organization, they are actually one of the better organizations. It's been historically proven and all that. Although, I mean, I'm going to do more research on that as well. But I would say that one of the largest and most successful co-ops in the world is an Israeli co-op. So my point being, my original point was that just because you're a co-op or a collective or whatever, uh, doesn't make your organization's moral judgments anymore, right? And but they are right that economically speaking, co-ops are much better, or organizationally have proven to be better than. But in terms of morality, why? Like it's like just like people who believe in populism. It's just such a, in my view, it's like saying I'm a fickle man who wants to agree with the most popular idea. That's what that is, in my view. So, anyways, but yeah, I was completely wrong if I insinuated or said that co-ops. And on the AOC thing, one of our commentators pointed out a very important fact. Like I always, said that of course politicians are sellouts and they should sell out. And he or she, I forget, pointed out that AOC is different. These new ones, they have built their power base online and in a different place, so they can actually, and like I think that comment was completely correct. They do have more, like I am a bit too easy on them, because they are not interested in power. They're just interested in money. That would be my explanation. So they take, they take the easy way out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they can be smart and even gain power and more money through, like, even through serving their own base.
Mhm.
But they want just quickly, get off.
I mean, that is true that AOC
That's
appears to
my
be like
thinking.
particularly popular because I mean, you made that comment because you said like if a politician kind of deviates, from the official narrative or the status quo, they come after them like seriously, right? The establishment. That was the
Yeah,
point you were
and they
saying.
can't really come out, because if you're not part, like, they can't come out of Glenn. Why? Because he's not part of. They try, Matt Taibbi, they try, but they can't because he's not part of that. And you can make money now as a part of that. Now, we'll see where internet goes. So I did completely miss that. So that was a definitely fair point. That, yeah, you can make money that way, even more sometimes.
Yeah, and become a big leader that way. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right, good stuff, Sam. As per usual, I forgot to mention in the beginning that the timestamps below. So hopefully I'll write it down. I don't know why, and I wrote it on top of the.
And by the way, just
I
a
don't know what's
very
wrong with me.
personal kudos. Thank you for the time, because
For
I'm
the what?
watching a lot of different for the timestamps, because I
Yeah, I
watch
think people like
other,
them too.
yeah, other channels. A lot of channels don't put them, and it's so annoying trying on your mobile phone, trying to find the fucking
Yeah.
exact, because mobile phone thing is small. So I'm a very lazy man. So thank you.
No, I know. I watched this MMA podcast and they have like the best fans, and the fans go in or like the viewers, and they put timestamp for every 3 minutes, and it's just perfect.
That's great.
But yeah, we put like more overall ones, but yeah, for now, that's it. But okay, Sam, hopefully we're gonna be
Until
recording
we
a lot
afford the
this
edit.
week. Hopefully we're gonna be recording a lot this week, including another Progressive World episode. Hopefully. So folks, stay tuned. And of course, as always, share your comments, questions, and criticisms. And please like and subscribe. But yeah, anything else, Sam?
No, again, yeah, kudos to those commentators. Thank you for, pointing my mistake out.
Definitely. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.